I was sitting in the meeting and I had been appointed to be the official note taker of the meeting. This was when I was in the corporate world. And I sat around this meeting and I started to realize something that was going on that I hesitate to mention now, but it's such a big topic that I have to address it for 2 episodes. And if you're in any type of leadership, if you're in an executive role, you are going to struggle with this subject. So as I was sitting in this meeting, I realized quite simply that almost no executive leader knows this. And that's what we're going to get into today.
Welcome to the Sam Linton Show, the podcast designed to help you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Sam is a pastor, coach, and expert communicator, helping leaders and entrepreneurs like you step into their purpose, speak with confidence, and make a lasting difference. So let's dive in.
All right, welcome. This is a defining moment for you of sorts, especially if you have a team. One of the hardest things that you're going to find when you're leading a team and having to communicate on a regular basis with your team is that you are going to get tired of saying the same things. You're going to get tired of saying the same things. You might even get tired of saying anything. You might be like, how are we not past, we're not past this? Like, we already aren't doing this? Like, how does everybody not know what they're doing? And so I'm going to share with you probably one of the number one struggles of leadership in the executive role. And that is the same thing that Harvard Business Review said. 71% of all managers and roles believe that their meetings are useless and unproductive. Did you catch that? I should say, to be exact, ineffective or inefficient and unproductive. Inefficient and unproductive. Have you ever been in a meeting like that? Have you ever been in a meeting where you start to say, could I hold my breath long enough that I will pass out, be given the rest of the day off for work, but not hurt my brain? Like, I'm looking into that information. Like, how long can I go before I pass out, right? That's how you feel in some meetings. And that's how I felt in this particular meeting when I was in the corporate world. I was sitting with a group of people. I was taking notes on what they wanted. And I worked for a bank. And I worked inside a bank vault. Not a bank vault where you go to get money and you see the vault behind you where they open the money. No. This vault was 40 feet below ground. It was completely encased in cement, and it had all of these very important commercial loan documents, the originals for really large commercial loans. This is 20-some years ago. So we're talking like the lowest amount in that vault was probably like $5 or $6 million. Now, I was having the meeting, and I was the note taker. There was somebody else facilitating, and they started talking, and I realized that this was all useless because one of the main things that everyone was asking for, they were asking for what we would need to do in order to install, wait for it, Windows. They wanted Windows underground. And I said, because I didn't know what else to say, I had my papers there. I was like, I think if we cut that wall over there, that the whole entire vault is going to collapse and we're all going to die. Or dirt from underneath the earth, because we're like in the center of the earth. We're basically a volcano at this point. If we make a window, it doesn't show. It's just going to show dirt. It's like more depressing. Like, I don't want to see dirt. I don't want to see cement. I don't want to see cinder block. I don't want to see whatever this vault is made out of. They didn't get it. And nobody was really engaged. They were all just kind of meandering, and nobody had any kind of insight. And so I come to this moment and I realize, as now being in an executive role for over 20 years, that most executives, myself included at times, don't know how to run a meeting. I mean, think about it. When you heard that this podcast was about how to lead a meeting, how do you feel? Are you excited? You're like, woohoo, I get to talk about meetings. Come on. Meetings are the worst. Nobody wants them. And the reason why they don't want them isn't because they're not needed or because they're not effective by themselves, but because most leaders, the facilitators of the meetings, they don't know how to do it. So it's like it's its own skill set, just like speaking. So today I want to talk to you about how you can become a more effective executive communicator when you're leading a meeting. So I'm going to give you some pointers, as always. And these pointers are not etched in stone. There are tons of meetings. There's 2 books that I'd recommend on the subject if you are interested. Sorry, I'm very parched, so I'm drinking a lot of water. One is a book by Patrick Lencioni called Death by Meeting. It was like his runaway first bestseller. Now, Patrick Lencioni, he likes writing fiction, but he writes in his nonfiction books these fables. So they're just basically stories that have a tie-in to the frameworks that he introduces of the nonfiction book. Now, if you were like, I'm not much of a reader, well, the good thing about Lencioni's books is the first 3/4 is the fable. And the last quarter of the book is actually the framework or the nonfiction or the do this, don't do that. So if you're like, I don't have time to read, you could pick up that book, Death by Meeting, and just look at his frameworks for the different types of meetings and how you should set up the meetings, and you'll be good to go. So he talked a lot about this subject, and it was a really, really important book. The other one is No Fail Meetings by Michael Hyatt. Michael Hyatt is literally one of the most productive people on the planet, really good at discussing meetings, but bottom line, no matter what book you read, most of us suck at meetings. So let's give you some focus by giving you some things to keep in mind. Number 1, the reason why your meeting sucks is because you have a problem with fog. You have a fog problem. Or you could say a problem. No, I don't say that. A fog problem. You cannot tell the people that come into your meeting why they're there. They have no idea. So when they sit down, they have no idea why they're there. Most of them are already tuned out. They're already focusing on the next thing. They're focusing on the work that they should be doing. Instead, they're here, for your meeting. And you have found that they don't care and you don't care enough to tell them why they're there. Every single meeting needs to have some sort of a purpose, some sort of a thing, some sort of a reason why you're there. Now, it doesn't have to be clearly defined as in today we're going to talk about how we're going to save $55 a month doing this. No, but just means, hey, today we're going to talk about insurance. Hey, this is our weekly staff meeting where we're going to update on what everybody's doing. Hey, we're going to get together because the purpose of this meeting is so that we can update on what's going on with the building project, right? Like those are meetings with a purpose. But what happens is the meeting often dictates whether it should happen or not. And that is the kiss of death. When a meeting just happens because it happens, that meeting is foggy. We don't know why we're here. We don't know how we got here. We don't know what we should be doing here, but we certainly know we don't want to be here. So you have a fog problem. Why are we getting together? We don't know. The people that are in your organization, they don't know. And so it's your job to get rid of the fog and help them to understand what the purpose of that meeting is. Second problem, as an executive, is way too much talking on your part. You're talking too much. This is the time, and I've worked with executives. Actually, before when I used to do video editing for different corporate clients. So I would go in and we would film their all hands meetings, like their big thing where they would get all the executives together, and they would have maybe they'd rent a small venue, some type of arena, and they would have everybody speak. And I always, and this is going to sound horrible, but I always had trouble whenever you could tell that somebody was excited to get up to talk at the meeting. Now, I'm the guy that tells you to be excited about talking, but that's not what I'm talking about. Some of these people, some executives, love hearing themselves talk so much that they think that everybody has that same passion. But guess what? You're not as interesting as you think you are. In fact, when it comes to meetings, you're not really interesting at all, because people are going to want to know, why am I here? And if I get up and I talk about random things that are affecting me and just what's going on with me as the executive, as the business leader, people are going to wonder, what the heck are they doing there? So I would recommend that you do it in reverse. Your purpose in running a meeting, if you're an executive, is not to generate the meeting. Your purpose is to facilitate the meeting. And if you think about facilitation, this is my jam. Facilitation is like throwing a beach ball into a room. And the goal is you are the one that throws the beach ball. The audience or the participants are the ones that keep the beach ball up. Boop, boop, boop. I don't know what noise a beach ball makes, but you get the gist. Now, your job is when the beach ball is about to fall, you pick it back up and then you volley it back again. So you want to be a person that is getting them to talk so that you listen. Remember, people only retain about 25% of what they hear. But if they're in an active discussion where they're a part of this communication, now they're listening. They're listening. So they feel like they're an agency. And we remember conversations. I had an interesting conversation with my wife last week about blah, blah, blah. Or I talked to my coworker about this, and it was a discussion. It was, I went to this meeting, and the CEO talked for 45 minutes, and boy, I was on the edge of my seat. Yeah, because you wanted to leave, not because you wanted to be there, right? So too much talking, not enough listening. You're talking too much. And that's also going to make the work easier for you. Like, you don't want to have a 55-page bullet point sheet about what needs to be covered. No. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. You don't want to have to memorize more things. You want to go in with an agenda that is loose enough to allow for your colleagues, your team, to be able to communicate to you what they are hearing as being a part of this. Okay? So too much talking, not enough listening. Too much talking, not enough hangouty. All right? Now, next one. And this one I'm stealing directly from Lencioni. All right? Because this one was the one that kind of blew me out of the water. You have no drama in your meeting. You have no drama. He says meetings fail because there's a lack of drama. Your meetings are not dramatic enough. Now, when I say drama, hear me. I'm not thinking like drama for the sake of like, oh, we're just going to fight and oh, she did this to me and he did that and they're all fighting and arguing. No. But there should be in a meeting a point where there's a chance for something to arise that is a disagreement. Hey, I think we should stop doing this one program at the church. I disagree. I think that program is amazing. When you have that, you have drama. Now people are like, ooh, maybe who's going to win this? Are we going to stop the program? Or are we going to continue said program? Are we going to double down and do more of said program? Or are we going to back up and not do any of the program? Right? It's created this tension. And our minds are gravitationally pulled towards tension. And when we see drama, and when we see a little bit of a give and take, we begin to tune in. We might even pitch in. Hey, I don't like that program either. What? You don't like the senior citizens make slippers every Monday and try to sew them by the end of Friday? Like, you don't like this now it gets more engagement. And Lencioni says, if you're in a respectful way, that drama is what's going to cause the meetings to be way more engaging. So you have to keep in mind that the drama is a good thing. Our meetings at the church aren't always dramatic in such a way. But every now and again, we'll get into a spirited discussion about, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. Or, hey, this was probably handled incorrectly. Or, hey, maybe we ought to take a step back and start to evaluate that this process sucks, right? And that drama keeps the meeting important. So you want to make sure that you're engaging emotionally. Dale Carnegie said it best. He says, we are not creatures of logic. We are creatures of emotion. and passion. And people don't recognize that, but that emotion will drive engagement. So keep that in mind. You want to make sure that there's room for a little bit of drama, not disrespect, not fear. You want to make it safe enough where if somebody vocalizes disinterest in a thing. One of the most interesting meetings I ever had was during COVID. When I say during COVID, when I use that during COVID, I mean like that initial lockdown period, whenever we thought that if we, cross the street that we're going to kill our grandma. And I'm not trying to disregard it. I'm not trying to minimize it. A lot of people died and it was horrible, but we have to all admit that it was a lot better than what we thought. Because I remember sitting there thinking, and I'm leading a large organization, and there's a lot of people involved. I'm like, I'm going to have to bury half of the church. Like, we're going to be doing funerals, and I can't be around people that I love. I can't be around my father. I can't be around, my siblings because I'm going to kill them. And, that was how it was. Well, we had the meeting once things started to open back up and the country started to open back up. And my boss, the pastor, he said, okay, this weekend's the first weekend we're allowed to start going out. He said, we're opening the church this weekend. And I disagreed. And then the other pastors, one of them disagreed, one of them agreed, and we started going back and forth. And it was an open discussion. And finally, as the leader, he was like, this is what we're doing, and we have to start moving in this direction. Well, the rest of the staff got up. We were all kind of sitting social distanced and everything. And the staff got up and left, and he asked me to stay. And he said, I need you to get on the same page with me on this, because it's really important that you and I are on the same page. And I said, I don't agree. I think that we need another week because, and I wasn't worried about the virus per se, but I was worried about how news channels were reporting all over the world that churches are killing people. When a church gets together, it kills people. When a church, and I'm like, I don't think we need that kind of publicity right now. I think we got to really think about what makes the most sense and how are we going to do this. And we have a smaller sanctuary. What are we going to do? And we did everything right. We did the sanitizing. We did tickets. We did all that for a while and blah, blah, blah. But my point is this. That meeting was interesting. And we ended up with respect. And by the end, we all got on the same page. We did the plan, and God used that plan. All right. So that engagement, there has to be an opportunity for it. Otherwise, just send me an email, bro. Okay. Next, poor meeting architecture. So, poor meeting architecture. Every now and again, you'll have like a team building meeting. We're just getting together because we're wanting to get together because we love each other. But if that's every meeting, you're in trouble. So this is the A word that nobody wants to use when it comes to the meeting. It's not the A word that you're thinking. It's agenda. The agenda. There has to be some sort of an agenda. We just hired an executive operations pastor, and for the first time in 21 years that I've been doing this job, every time we sit down for a meeting, we have an agenda. He makes sure that it's plain. He highlights people on the agenda, and he gets people to speak about their part of the agenda. The meetings have never been as productive. As long as I ran all the meetings, so I'm telling you, they've never been as productive. And yes, that means even the meetings that I ran, because we still have those good things, that open rapport and some of that drama, but now there's an architecture attached to, okay, I know where we're going. I see what we're supposed to talk about. We're supposed to talk about Vacation Bible School this week. We're talking about Easter. We're talking about Christmas. Like, it makes sense. Like, we are now firing on all the cylinders. So, I am not one of those types of leaders where I believe that when you're communicating, every single thing has to be scripted. I mean, God help you if it is. You want to make sure that you're leaving room enough for a conversation. But when it comes to bringing other people together, it's not a coffee chat. You're bringing people together for the purpose of some sort of meeting reason. Refer to the fog problem in point 1. And if you can't articulate that and there's no agenda, people are going to genuinely wonder why they are giving their time to this when they could be giving their time to something else. Your job is to make them see that the value is that they were there. And so that agenda is helpful. Now, when you're making a meeting agenda, one of the best ways to lay it out is really jot down outcomes of things you're trying to achieve. Don't just write, like, so for example, we had Vacation Bible School. If that were on an agenda, I would say it's not as helpful if the words Vacation Bible School were on the agenda as much as Vacation Bible School parking lot problems. All right, that is more sensible. Like, we have to figure out what we're going to do with the parking situation, security, whatever. You want that to be in writing so that people know what the outcomes ought to be. Like, what are we trying to solve here? Instead of saying new building, just say looking over loan documents for upcoming closure of property, right? So it's cut and dry what that is. There's no question. It's outcomes focused and not just, we're talking about this, talking about the church. It's like when people ask me what my sermon's about, and I'm like, God. They're like, oh, like, what's it about? I'm like, it's about Jesus. They're like, okay, come on, what is, and that usually means I don't have my title yet or what the outline is yet. But my point is, the more specific you can get on that agenda when it comes to the outcomes, the greater the chance of your engagement, you're communicating, and it gives people a chance to pitch in to how to solve that problem because they'll have agency, right, in actually solving the problem. Now, the last thing, and this is going to be the transition into part 2, because we can't cover this all, is there's zero connection to the bigger picture. There's zero connection to the bigger picture. And I want to add, there's zero connection to them, the people in the meeting, and the bigger picture. You have to connect why you're talking, what you're talking about, why you're there with the vision of the overall department, the overall project, and the overall company. If you don't have those, the meeting is going to feel like a one-off, or it's going to feel useless. It's going to feel trite and ignorable, altogether pretty much skippable. But if you keep that vision, and next week I'm going to talk to you about how to cast vision as an executive leader. And if you are looking for communication help, by the way, I help executives all the time. I just did a workshop for a group of sales people who were together on a retreat, and I did a workshop on confidence. I did a workshop on how to, handle self-perception issues before you're speaking. I can do workshops. I would love to work with your team. I would love to work with you one-on-one on your communication. So, podcast@samuellinton.com. Let me know how I can help you, because I want to help you. And let me know what we can do for you. Now, coming back to this vision idea is so important, it's going to take up a whole episode next time. But you have to, as a leader, know what the person on your team who's the furthest away from making decision about the vision, what their involvement is with the bigger part of the vision. And so it's your job to be the tic-tac-toe connector of, okay, June from the mailroom has just as much of a role at UPMC's overall financial health as the CFO. Now, is that true? In a sense, yeah, because otherwise June in the mailroom has no purpose. But it's your job to draw that out by connecting their existence or their function to vision. Vision is what brings people together. Vision is what keeps people working. Vision is what stabilizes an organization. And vision is your greatest tool as a communicator and a leader. So, with that said, next week we're going to talk about vision. So thank you for tuning in to the Sam Linton Show. Please share this if you know somebody that leads boring meetings. No, don't share it if they're leading boring meetings. Share if they might be interested in leading better meetings. Also, like and subscribe. Of course, you're already listening to this, but have you liked it? Have you shared it? Have you rated it? If you don't like it, number one, why are you listening? And number two, please don't rate it. That would be awful. What a waste of time. Don't do that. So anyway, thank you for tuning into the Sam Linton Show. Shift your mindset, find your voice, change your world. We'll see you again next time.